What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Pert in Your Outdoors podcast. This is Billy, and this week I'm happy to bring you episode 120, which will be a fun chat I had this past week with Jesse Coots. Many of you upstate New Yorkers, Western New Yorkers, and maybe even people outside New York are familiar with Jesse. Very successful deer hunter and also Western game hunter, kind of a traveling public land specialist. Jesse is pretty opinionated, which I love about him, and I also really enjoyed getting to build our friendship over the last year and a half. He's a pretty interesting guy, and maybe against the grain to many, but his heart is big, and his kids and his family are awesome. So I hope you enjoy this chat here. Definitely encourage you to check out any of Jesse's stuff. He has a podcast called the Hunt Different Podcast. He's had been a little bit dormant on posting of new content to the chagrin of his partner Kevin. I know Kevin wants to get content out there, but Jesse's busy with many things, and I get that and respect that. But he's got some great content that I would definitely encourage you to go check out. It's entertaining and informative, and even though he hasn't put anything out quite recently, hopefully he will be again soon. And it's quality content. It's relevant. It's quality. He's got some very good friends across the country that are absolute killers, and people that we can all learn some things from, and maybe even some familiar names that you've heard on other big podcasts. So check that out. That's my plug for Jesse's podcast. You're welcome. My 12 listeners will support you strongly, sir. So there you go there. Let's see. We've got it's Labor Day when I'm recording this. We are 4 days, I guess 3.5 days away from liftoff on the plane. Sean, Mr. T, as we call him, he has, I think he's out of town by now. He was waiting to meet his new baby niece, but the truck is all loaded up on Saturday morning and headed west with all of our gear. He was making the solo trek himself, and then AJ, Brian, and I will be flying out Thursday afternoon after work and staying with Rob Herman in Denver, and then we'll be heading up into the mountains first thing Friday morning to start our hunt. So if you've been following along, you know I'm going for elk, archery elk. Sean's going archery elk. AJ and Brian both have mule deer muzzleloader tags, so we hope to be able to hunt together. The area we're going, we've been several times, and the deer and elk have been in the same place, so fingers crossed that this year will be no different and we will be able to hunt together. We really enjoy sharing a camp. That's a big piece of it for us, not only having the success, but also the shared time together in the mornings and evenings at camp. It's some of the best memories we've made on any of these trips, whether it be the Western trips or even just anything around the Northeast here or just hunting at home. Camp is a huge piece of our hunting tradition together. So very excited about this upcoming week. Kind of anxious, to be honest. Anxious, nervous. Kind of got those pregame jitters. I've never fully gone after chasing elk. I had an elk tag in my pocket the last time we were out, but it was kind of a weird deal because I had the deer tag as well, and there was deer and elk in this basin, and it was kind of hard to focus on one or the other. It was kind of whatever opportunity presented itself. But this time around, it's 100% focused on those giant screaming horses with antlers coming out of their heads, and I'm optimistic. I think if we can get into them, I think Sean or I will certainly have opportunity, and I'm not going to be shy. I will be happy as a clam to shoot a cow. I've got an either sex tag, so if I have the opportunity, I will most certainly be taking advantage of that because I need to put some notches in my belt and gain some confidence while hunting out west there because you just don't get that many opportunities. So I'm pretty excited about it and look forward to bringing you all some content from the trip. I'll have our recorder with us and be recording along the way some hunt recaps and things like that. So definitely looking forward to and I'll make sure to bring you all some updates along the way. Uncle Tim and Uncle Chris are on their way out as we speak. They are actually going with an outfitter out in the Grand Junction out that way, kind of more on the western slope. So excited to see what their experience is. We're going to maybe try to get with them I've talked to them on the phone a couple times. We were going to try to record a podcast on their drive out there, but just things didn't align. But hopefully we will get them on the horn maybe while they're in camp. If not in camp, maybe we'll get them. We'll definitely get them when they get back to get a recap of the hunt. But Uncle Tim he's traveled a lot. He's done a lot of different hunts, and he's a big fan of going with outfitters, something that I've never experienced, but Uncle Tim really enjoys going on hunts with outfitters. So this will be the first family elk hunt in Colorado with an outfitter. So we'll be happy to report back the experience there, and whether we are all on board and recommending others to join this outfitter, or even ourselves here in the near future. I know my dad's gonna be retiring at the end of this year. August of 2022 will be retiring, and I've been twisting him, and he's very much wanting to get out and chase elk himself in the future. He's never done it, never had the time to do it, never prioritized it. So hopefully in retirement we can get Big Willie out there to experience that thrill of being in the elk woods in September and October. So that's that. That's what we got kind of on the docket here. I'm not sure that I'll have an episode for next week while we're out and about. I know I was talking with Jimbo. We'll see if maybe I can get something recorded this week. Maybe Jimmy and I will get together. I know we were very excited to see the announcements from the DEC last week, last Wednesday, I believe it was. They came out with the updates to the deer and bear hunting, and we were pretty excited to see that. And I know many of you out there were as well. So more opportunity is most often gladly happy to see, and I'm pretty fired up that I've got buddies that are going to be able to go hunting this weekend coming up. When I'm out west, they're going to be back here searching for old flatheads. So pretty cool, and maybe we'll break that down. But if not, we will have lots of content for you when we come back. Give a couple shout-outs to our supporters. Of course, we've been talking the last few weeks about the Huntworks. I'm just going to keep reminding everybody about them. Doesn't matter whether you are Rochester or Buffalo, general area located. The Huntworks has got a great website where all their product is available. Thehuntworks.com is where you find it. You can use the link in our bio so that if you are shopping on that website, they know that you heard about them from us, and that'll help give me a little kickback in the end. So no matter what you're buying, a little piece will come back to me, just like any of those other links in our bio. The Camo Fire, Cabela's are probably the two most popular, but there's a bunch of stores in there that if you're going to do any shopping, if you use our links, they definitely help. That's kind of what funds the back end of this. Each month we have a hosting expense and the website expense, so it's definitely nice to cover those so it's not too much out of pocket. So it's all we ask to do that there for us. But the Huntworks, back to them. Really have enjoyed getting some of the product in our hands and getting stuff erected. So we've Jimbo and Mike and Greg, they got their buck hut set up last week. Put together they did. And then this week, Dallas and Bob put together one of our two that we purchased out here on the farm. So really excited. I got Billy and Kate up in that with me on Saturday, and the kids were pretty excited about it. It's an awesome spot, and hopefully many successful hunts will come out of that spot. I'm pretty confident of it. So we got that, and then they've also got any of the tree stands, ladder stands. They carry several different brands of actual like molded or plastic box blinds. So I know they've got Banks, they've got Maverick, Grizzly is a new brand that they're carrying. All three have their kind of their price points and their benefits. Definitely encourage you to check them out if you're in the market. I was just over there last week to drop some stuff off to them, and they had a bunch of inventory out there in the yard, but I'm sure it's not going to last. So head over to thehuntworks.com, check out their stuff, and if you can't go to their, or maybe if you can drive by, just do a drive by and see what they got out in the yard. Maybe Uncle Steve there will cut you a deal. Tell him Slick Willie sent you, and maybe he'll give you a hat or something. The other is just going to give a shout out to Basemap. Appreciate the support we've been getting from them. Ed's been there to help us out with any of the giveaways or the events we've been doing, and pretty excited to get out and run that app offline for a full week and really push the limits of it with all the updates they've made since last hunting season. I've certainly used it when I've been out scouting and whatnot, but it'd be nice to download those offline maps and let her eat and see how it does. So if you haven't heard of Basemap, it's a mobile GPS hunting app. Check it out. Definitely recommend it. We've been using it here for the last year, and I'm a fan. I love the mapping layers. It's probably my favorite part of it, but they've got some pretty cool features for tree stand hunting with the weather and wind features that you can look at. So check it out. If you have any more questions on it or anything you're interested on, check them out on social media, YouTube. They've got tons of information out there. But if you do end up purchasing a subscription, use promo code PERTNEAR20 and it will save you 20% off, and that'll bring your subscription to $23.99. So for a full year, you get full access to every single one of the benefits you have, every state in the union, all the layers, all the goodies for $23.99. Can't beat that, and hope you check it out because it's a pretty badass tool to have in your pocket when you hit the woods this fall. So that's what I've got. I'm sure I've got more, as I always do, but I'm going to turn it over to the conversation between Jesse and I, and hope to talk to you all here in a couple weeks and have some great stories from our trip to Colorado. So thanks for listening. Tell a friend, share it on Instagram or Facebook. We much appreciate it. Have a great week and keep feeding them.
Hello.
Yeah, that's your
Yeah.
name.
Squirrel's got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what your hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's some deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
When you're
the
275
ghost,
pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah.
You know,
He's like,
he's up there slapping it, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's right. I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize. Remember this?
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. Right. These are a little different than what we had the last time we were together.
You're moving up in the world.
Yep. Or down, whichever you want to look at
You're
it.
moving. That's all that matters.
Yeah, moving. Everything sounds good to you?
Yeah, it's loud.
It is loud.
It's not terribly loud, but it's good.
That should be a little bit easier on the ears, probably.
All right.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. If you're number 2 here, so if you want to turn it down so it's not so loud in your ears.
Let me fuck with that. You keep talking for a second.
Hi, Jesse.
That's a lot
I'm
better.
in your house.
That's creepy.
Yeah. Puts the lotion on.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, there's probably lotion over there.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
usually where I sit when I masturbate.
Oh, cool. Leg up on the ottoman or not? I don't know.
Unfortunately, I'm getting to the age in life where I don't really even have time to do that. Pretty much just hold out for my piece of ass.
How are you, Jesse? It's been too long.
I know it has been a while. Jeez,
It is.
time is slipping. So are we recording now?
It's on. Trigger's hot.
Serious. All right.
Yep.
Trigger's hot.
Yeah. Don't be different. We were just talking about this. Just be yourself, okay? Be comfortable.
Okay. I'm starting to get nervous now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Now I'm looking you in the eye.
Do I look all right?
You
is
look
there anything
good.
in my nose?
Your hair looks just the same as it did the last time
My
I saw
zipper?
you. So
Yeah, I'm not much for hairstyle.
no,
In fact, I'm not much for style in general.
no. Just be you. Be different, Jesse. Yeah, we saw I'm driving over here, and I can't believe it. It's like a year and a half ago when when we did our first podcast here with you. It was like February of 2020, and just so much has changed, since February of 2020, and it's been wild. But I will say that it's been fun to watch and engage with you over the last year and a half. I've really enjoyed it because you're a fun guy to follow along with, and to anybody, most people that are listening know who you are and are familiar with you. But you've been like a weird guiding light for me, one of those guys over this last year and a half, where I just watch how you engage with your kids and the stuff you do with them, and I just want you to know how much I enjoyed watching that, and it kind of like makes me want to be that fun dad.
Oh, thanks.
Who's
That's a great
tearing it up and driving the side by side through huge puddles of water, soaking the family, and that's what it's all about. So I just want to start it off with this: is that there's been a lot of jacked up things from the last year and a half, but watching you just be Jesse and just have a good time, that's what it's all about.
Well, that's very classy. Thank you very much. That makes me feel good. That's the best compliment a fella could get, so thanks for that. Yeah. I appreciate that. Not much changed around here. I try not to let the political nonsense or any of this stuff swap up my life too much, but that makes me feel good. Thanks for the kind words. My kids are obviously our driving force and bring me true happiness. You know what I mean? So thanks for that.
Yeah, and I see that, and I see this. We didn't get you on at all last year, but your daughter had an awesome hunting season last year.
Yeah,
that was like her first year really getting out there and kind of doing it on her own, right?
It was, and she really, it's one of those things you can't push anybody to do anything. And I kind of put the tools in front of her, and she's obviously always been with me. She does everything. She went with me today. She goes with me everywhere. Mm-hmm. So she's always hunted with me and always scouted with me. All the girls have, but cricket the most. And this year when I went to Montana and then got back from Montana, I went to Colorado and then Montana, or last year I should say. And when I got back, then I had to go to Iowa. So I went to Iowa. And in between there, it was tough. She was shooting a little bow, and it was hard to get bow and arrows because of this COVID nonsense. And I had ordered a bow and ended up having a buddy that works at Elite that hooked us up with a bow and got her shooting, and then got her into a bow that could really whip an arrow, and upped her poundage. And then it was really nice for her because there was no school for her.
Right. It was all remote.
It really made me question
sending them back to school.
100%.
Yeah.
And you forget how school is great. I think school is good for public relations, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Because those kids did great, and she just she shot a doe with that little bow, and hit it low, but got a full pass on it. We recovered it, but her distance, she could only shoot about 15 yards, and she saw some good bucks at 30 yards, or good bucks for her, and she really wanted to up it. So once she accomplished that doe, she really wanted it, and then we got her that bigger bow, and if something happened, something that a dad or a mom can't do, it clicked for her. And as a dad, it was so fun to see because she'd get up in the morning and she was shooting her bow, and then you could see her. She'd always come and say, "Hey, can you help me adjust this pin? I want to be able to shoot 30 yards." And so she started doing that, and she just hunted. And the problem is when I got back, I wasn't able to spend a lot of time with her. Plus, she didn't push for it. So once that happened, something clicked. I can't even tell you what. I wish I could bottle it because whatever clicked for her, I wish you could make it click on a lot of people. But once I got back from Iowa, it was mid-November and gun season was opening here, and she was just ruthless on it. And she didn't care the guns. She goes, I'm just gonna bow hunt. So she bow hunted all the way through gun season, and actually arrowed her buck on the last day of gun season.
Was that what it was? Yeah.
It was the last day of gun season because she hit it back. She told me right where she hit it, and I went in after it with her that evening. But then we backed out. We only went in about 20 yards, and she had backed out on her own, and I went back with her, and I was like, "Yep." So we went back the next morning, but we had to take our muzzleloaders because it was muzzleloader season then, and I hate to say it, but I didn't know where she hit it or anything, so I really kind of wanted to follow it up with a gun. But we ended up tracking it about 100, and it wasn't that far, but it was a long. I mean, it was probably 150 yards, but it seemed like 2 miles. It was through the nastiest brush, and he was down. She had gotten him, but whatever clicked for her, it was awesome, man. It was the best season of my life because she shot two does and a buck with a bow. So
that was a dandy buck too. It
was a pretty good one, yeah. And she passed up bucks that I told her, and she's got this damn phone, and take pictures of them. They were driving me nuts. I'm like, dude, shoot that deer.
Yeah.
But she really has the understanding and she said, she shot like a 90-inch deer in Ohio the one year. And she's like, I don't ever want to shoot anything smaller than that. She goes, I'd rather just shoot another doe and they'll get bigger next year. And so now all those bucks that she passed up, she's glassing them and she's seeing them and she's 14 and she's learned what I wish like 24-year-old guys would
for
learn.
sure.
Like this, it's long-term investing, and she has long-term invested already at 14, and she's like, I don't care if I shoot a buck. If I shoot one, I want it to be a good one. It's like, hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, so. I mean, we're sitting here looking around. I mean, obviously she's been around this for her entire life, so she kind of maybe has a different look at it than somebody who's like brand spanking new, doesn't know anything about hunting. Like,
sure,
she's ahead of the game a little bit, with how in tune she is with the way that you approach things and what you're after, each and every day.
Yeah, and
it's beautiful to hear a kid that's like, yeah, I'll just shoot does and I'll let the bucks grow. Like,
it's perfect. Yeah.
I'm there now. It took me a while to get there, but it's still struggle when a 2.5-year-old walks in front of me.
No, it's tough. I get it, and I'm not judging anybody for doing it, but it's kind of like with money. If you get a little windfall, if you sell something and you make $4 or $5 grand, put it against your mortgage. Don't go buy a new sofa. Put it against your mortgage. It's long-term investment. Yeah. And it's the same thing with letting a buck walk. It hurts. It sucks, but man, it feels so good to ring a dandy. And so that one that she was after, it's just a 7-point, but it was a pretty good. I mean, I think he was 3.5. It might have been 4.5.
Yeah.
Not great genetics, so I was pretty happy.
Yeah. Just big mature body like that deer, especially her sitting behind that thing. I'm like, holy Christ.
Oh, dude, she was awesome. Shaking. Her telling the story was awesome. I love it.
It's the best.
Yeah. So
how did you and your wife handle like the whole virtual learning thing last year? Because you work here, you work from home. So were the girls just working? Were they doing their schoolwork all throughout the day, or were you guys working right with them? Or
so that was kind of tough. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, like when all the nonsense went on, school opened, but it was going to be. I can't remember, like 2 days on, 3 days off, and all this nonsense, and they had to wear a mask, and we didn't know what was going on, and we just decided the first 10 weeks that our kids were just going to stay home and we'll homeschool them. And I'll be the first to admit, I hate formal education. I would rather they learn how to run the wood splitter. I would rather they all know how to mow the grass. They all know how to weed whack. They all know how to clean the gutters. I'd rather them just work and learn how to work hard. They all came out to the shop. I didn't work on the schoolwork with them the way that I had promised my wife I was going to. So my wife really did. She took over on all accounts. And I just stuck with them as far as, hey, this is what needs to be done. Do it right. And I'm going to check it out, and it better be done well. So they have great tenacity and great work ethic. Like, truthfully, before this room was full of stuff, and I said, hey, my friend Bill's coming over. Get this shit cleaned up. Get it out of here. And I don't ever have to tell him twice. So I feel like that's a lesson that some people really need to learn, and it's not taught at school. I think school is breeding a lot of laziness and a lot of privilege, and my kids don't have that. So I'm proud of them for that, and I think they learn that stuff by being home and being involved in a work-related environment. And that doesn't always happen. And
their parents engaging with them 100%. And doing that stuff with them, And that's the compliment I was paying to you when we first started this discussion is that. It's like, that's what I learned from all this that's happened over the last year and a half in life, like slowing down and basically not being able to do anything other than spend time with your family.
It was great.
And it's like, I love this.
Yes.
Like, I love being with my kid. Like, yes, is there days when your 2-year-old makes you want to pull your hair out? Yes. But it's like the times that we spent together in that 3 months that I was laid off of work, I don't ever want to be laid off again. But like, it was like locked in. We're spending time together.
Yeah.
And I'll never get a chance to do that again with my kids. So I think a lot of people probably had that experience, but people that didn't take advantage of that and maybe don't see that forest through the trees, that you got to be engaged with your kids. Because like to the point you just said about what the schooling is doing now, and however people want to lean towards that stuff, I feel the same way. I had the same discussion with my buddy Jeff this morning. It's like the responsibility is on us as parents to 100%. Raise our kids right in this world, so that when they grow up and they get out into the real world and their boss is a dick, or they have struggle and they're not getting the job they want, or they fail.
Yeah.
Like, they have to understand that, and their teachers and these people around them that are telling them that they're so great are not going to do that. Like the parents have to teach. That's what my dad taught my brother and I, my mom, but especially my dad. We were out in the woods every weekend up at camp, whether I was throwing sticks off or throwing rocks off trees and stuff and screwing around while Jimmy was off actually working. But like we were up at camp with Dad, like we were doing firewood, we were up messing around. And I made that comment about, because Jimmy always says you weren't working, you were off like throwing a rock in the air and hitting it with a stick, practicing your baseball swing. I was like, well, okay, yeah, but I was at camp, But we learned that work ethic, and I feel like nowadays everything it is on the parents. The parents have to be
it should be
locked
on the
in with
parents.
their kids. Yeah,
Should be on the parents. It shouldn't be on the school to. The school should teach your kid, in my opinion, some fundamentals, some formal education fundamentals, and they should teach your kids how to relate with other people. But parents should, if your kid's an asshole, that means you're a shitty parent. If your kid is not respectful and a hard worker and well-mannered and give 110%, that's on you, not on the school. You're the one that had the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So having that time off for us, I'm amazed how many people were like, ugh, I can't wait till these kids go back. And it was... I rarely use the word blessing, but it was a blessing. I just loved. It was just great. They were around, and it made me realize like everything I work for isn't that important.
No.
Like it's not everything that is free, like my kids. That's what's important,
Yes.
and I should be spending more time focusing on them. And I'm literally kind of transitioning my life because of that. Like I want more of that. I don't want that to be the last.
Right.
3 months. I'm going to be dead soon, and I want to, I mean, literally, you think about it, I have like 20, 30 years left, and I'm going to be a crippled old dead guy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I
If
know.
that, I don't even know if I'm going to make 20 years.
I know.
I'm kind of shot.
Yeah.
Fucking shit's broke up right now. But
that's the truth, right? It's
It
like
is,
you step back, and it's like it's like the only thing that matters is your friends and your family. That's it.
yeah, no, that's
Truthfully.
true. And when your kids are 2, I know that is a tough. I was just talking to another friend of mine. It is such a tough age, but it is that age where you can blow bubbles on their neck and just kiss them, and all they want to do is be with you and
Right.
sit on your lap, and they just want to show you everything, and they want your kisses, and they want you to sit in bed with them for an hour before. I mean, they want that, and I'm at the stage in life where they still want me to tuck them in every night and all that, but they don't need me the way they used to, and they're great, and we have an extremely close relationship, but that shit's slipping through my fingers. Like it's not gonna be long till there's boys knocking on the door, and my daughters are, they're like, Dad, I'm going out.
Yeah.
But enjoy those little the terrible twos were wonderful. I don't know why they call them the terrible twos, because that's the most adorable.
Yeah.
They're walking, they're talking, all they want is love. I mean, geez, what a great point in life. Terrible twos are great.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird. This is my first trip. Like I wanted to get together with you today and talk about elk hunting and finding success. It's just a couple pointers from Jesse Coots on killing elk on public land. But there's a different feeling for this trip for me, where the last two, the first one had no kids, the second one had one child, but now we've part of this entire discussion becomes so grounded at home and not away from my family. Like there's this weird part of me that I'm super excited for this trip, but I feel like this weird guilt that I'm leaving my family for a week. Like it's the first time I've done it.
Yeah. That's because you're a good man. You should feel that way.
Yeah.
And you're going to, it's the worst part. It is the hardest part. And your age is very tough because your kids don't understand.
Right.
My kids are, Cricket's 14, Trilly's 12, and Sully's going to be 11 in a few days. She's going to be 11 when I'm gone, actually. But dude, you're gonna cry. It's hell. It's hell leaving. I for years would try and explain to them how I'm doing these trips, why I love these trips, and I work hard so I can play hard, and I would always tell them, and maybe you can tell your kids this. This always gave them, I could see it lift them up a little bit. I would always say, I am going out to find places for us to hunt. When you are ready, I am going to take you with me. So this trip is practice so that when you are older, you girls can go with me. So they would always then, the conversation would transition to, when can we go?
Yeah.
But that's the hardest. It's still very difficult for me to leave. But your age is terrible because they don't know why you're leaving them.
Yeah.
That's why when you go on these trips, this is corny as well, and you're gone I usually go for 2 weeks. It is
That's
crushing.
a long time. Yeah.
I can't. That makes me appreciate our military even more,
Yeah, these guys, I've been thinking about that recently too, with everything that's going on.
I don't know if I could leave my kids for 6 months.
And
separate,
that's a skill to be able to separate home life from duty. Like,
I don't
good
know
luck.
how they do it.
No.
And it's got to just crush them. And the kids change so much. You know, even when I get back from an elk hunt, I feel like they've grown, they've changed, they've changed.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks. I can't imagine missing.
You can be
6
gone for
months
2
of
days. My
life.
parents watched the kids for 2 nights, and my wife and I went and had a nice weekend, the two of us, and we picked the kids up, and it's like, what the hell happened to our kids?
Yeah,
they were like developed, you know.
Yeah. No, that's one of the hardest
Yeah.
parts of these out of state trips. And I can't remember what podcast, but we did somebody, I don't know if it might even have been our podcast. I don't know. We did a talk about going away, and one of my biggest topics is getting your home life, your ducks in a row with your home life, because that's the hardest part. When shit isn't settled here, I forgot to turn that off. Sorry.
All right, rookie mistake.
When shit isn't set up here, it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
You know, but you'll get through it. It's good. It's good for your kids to have struggles. That's what I always look at it. I mean, if your kid's worst struggle, which it probably is their only struggle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really, is that
Yeah,
their dad goes hunting for 10 days to 2 weeks. I mean,
right.
That's a pretty good life.
Yeah, it is.
So,
yeah, our kids they've got a great life. But my son yesterday, I'm packing stuff up in the garage, and he's like, "What are you packing?" And I'm like, "We're packing up for my elk hunt." I'm gonna go elk hunting. I'm like, well, yeah. When you get bigger, he goes, "I'm bigger." He's like, "I'll go." He was trying to say Colorado. He's a 3-year-old, like Colorado, or however he says it. I'm like, God, you're just tearing my heart out right now, kid. I'm
well, don't let
but I'm going to use that. I'm finding hunting spots for us
That's
when
it.
you get older. I like that.
Buddy, I got to find spots for us to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I actually told Cricket if she arrows 2 does and a good buck with her bow, that buys her in for next year Montana. But she's got to get in shape, I told her. And she's like, I'll work out every day. I'm like, all right. And she probably will. So
Yeah. I have a feeling you put that carrot out there, she'll be
she'll
be working for it.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Time is slipping through our fingers. We were going to do an antelope hunt out in South Dakota this year, but I don't know. Time, crazy.
Yeah.
Life is slipping. But
So what do you have on the docket here for this season coming up?
this season is pretty gentle. Just drew Montana. I don't even know where I'm going for. I didn't draw any good tag. I didn't draw any tags for Whitetails. It kind of leaves the door open. I might shoot out after Christmas to Arizona just to do
because you have
a mule deer.
the tag. I've never done. I've never done that, but seems like
That's a fun
cool
one.
hunt.
Yeah, it's a fun hunt. It's beautiful country. I can't remember how much the tag is, but it's pretty affordable. You gotta watch out. You gotta watch out when you get down near the border for the drug runners and shit.
Well, now especially,
Yeah.
Jesus, I can't imagine what things are like down there now. I
Yeah.
mean, who knows? Maybe it's not as bad as
Pretty,
they're telling you, but I have a feeling it's not good.
It's pretty sketchy, yeah. But I don't know. This year I got a few things. We're building a campground, so I kind of got that on my plate. So that's why I just did the elk hunt.
Is that progressing? That process?
Yeah, it's moving ahead. We're still like anybody. I don't want to get too pissed off thinking about it, but you're dealing with these small towns, small town planning boards. Everybody in the town is excited and wants it to go, except for 2 neighbors. So they're
they're
causing a stink, and then the town planning board is a bunch of. They're great people, but the reason they're on the planning board is to make sure nothing goes on in this town, and they're all old retired people who just want a quiet place. And apparently campgrounds are just horrible and reckless. So, anyways, it's going well. We got to get through that. So we're kind of jumping through hoops right now, but it's doing well. And actually, that's where my next meeting after this is to go and talk to an architect. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And camping has definitely become a huge. A lot of my friends are getting into it. I don't know. I'm not a big camper, like going to a campground type of thing, but it's I have a feeling if the Coots family's putting a campground together, it might be a place you want to go check out.
Oh, thanks.
Because it would probably be a pretty good time.
Yeah, well, we're not huge campers either, other than I love to be in the mountains.
Yeah, right.
But it's a good. There's not much going on around here, and there isn't. Campgrounds are all packed. People can't get it. There's a need for it, so we're trying to fill the void, and it's a good long-term investment for my wife and I, and we both work for ourselves, so we don't really have retirement, so this is kind of our retirement project, and it's something that sounds corny, but I never see my kids. I get up early in the morning, go to work, by the time they're done with soccer practice, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And the nice thing with the campground is if I can transition to that gently, all of us could work together at the campground and spend our summers together. Even though we'd all be working together and, you know, something to give all the neighborhood kids a place to work and hang out. I don't know. It's a long-term thing. And plus I like the community. I like the public doing shit. So
yeah,
that's the theory behind it. But yeah, so I'm my hunting ticket this year is kind of lackluster compared to normal years because I kind of am preparing for that. But I've found that sometimes when I've had a lot, like last year, I actually had a lot of big tags in my pocket, and you just dropped the ball. I don't know. I actually shot.
So it's like too much to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's almost seems like every year that I have. Last year, I shot a great bull in Montana, didn't recover it. Makes me sick. And then I did shoot a great buck here. Didn't recover it until 3 weeks later, which makes me sick. And then ate my tag in Iowa, which kind of makes me sick. But I passed up a numerous 160 class deer because I was hunting a great piece of ground that if I was ever going to kill a 180 to 200 inch deer, it would probably have been on that hunt. So you gotta take the chance. So, but it was fine. But I've had years where I just draw, like this is just a general archery tag and kill a giant bull, and then I'll buy an over the counter tag and somewhere and kill a great buck. I mean, so I'm just gonna play it loose hand this year and see how it falls.
I think there's something to be said for that. Like I'm very young in this, like traveling and doing these different things and going out of state. But like when you go somewhere without like months of expectation of it, it's almost like easier on you because you're not stressing out about it. It's not 4 years of investment into points and everything else. Yeah. It's like I'm just showing up here and whatever comes in front of me, I'm not going to press. I'm just going to go have fun and see what happens. Yeah,
when you might be surprised what could show up too. Yeah, I feel bad. I've got numerous buddies that have the point creep is terrible nowadays. I don't know if you're too familiar with it, but it's horrible. And I've got buddies that have used 16, 18 years worth of points and gotten skunked and passed up bulls that I'm getting shots at on general archery unit tags. I mean, it's crazy. But they're the same guys that on a 2-year draw have killed 360-inch bulls.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's an entire different podcast discussion, you know, and I think to a lot of people that listen to this, I know they're, you know, New Yorkers and people that may not be into that game yet of putting in for points and stuff, but there's a huge argument to be made with, are you better off going hunting every other year on a tag you can get for 1 point or an over-the-counter tag so you can get some experience, or are you going to, you know, rack up points for 16 years so you can draw that tag one time in your life and have no hunting experience.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, exactly. Well, that, and when you add up, like, for instance, I mean, most states now, the states have figured out the business end of it.
Yeah.
You got to buy the damn license, which is, you know, anywhere from $150 to $350. So you do that for a decade. I mean, and you've got a fortune. You got $3,000-$4,000 plus then you draw the tag, which is another $1,000. So now you got $5,000 or $6,000, and it took you a decade to draw it. I mean, a decade. What are you going to draw 3 tags in your entire life?
Right.
And you're spending a fortune. And you know, we're getting older. One of my other buddies who's killed a lot of big stuff, and he's a hardcore just DIY public land guy. But he's even said, like, what are we doing? Like, why don't we just pay trespass fees? Just pay a $3,000 trespass fee and hunt primo
private land,
and it's kind of like, I'm almost getting to that point. I actually went on a hunt last year to help a buddy of mine who was kind of partnered up with a well-known TV show to be his cameraman and kind of his, you know, call for him. And we went to, I've never seen anything like this. We hunted this. It was Colorado. We hunted this hunt was, I don't even know what you call it. There was just monster bulls.
Oh, you were sending me pictures when you first got there. It was just like Jurassic Park. It was just like walking around.
It's just stupid. I've never hunted public land for elk. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Well,
or private.
I'm sorry, private.
Yeah.
I have actually, but not managed. I've hunted private land that anybody can just hunt. But this was, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, but that was awesome. But then again, it was also like, this is a joke.
Yeah.
Like my wife could have killed a bull there. So I don't know. But
what are you saying about your wife?
she's not that great of a hunter. She's a horrible hunter. She's a good dishwasher.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Thank God she doesn't listen to your podcast or mine.
I know, it's perfect. And my wife doesn't listen either, so
we
I can
can say
say all
anything
the
we want.
good, bad, or indifferent. It don't matter.
That's right.
So we're time's flying, and I don't want to. I want to just get a few of your pointers. So if you're going into, I'm going out here in a couple weeks. This is my first archery, or not a couple weeks, a week from right now. I'll be getting ready to go. Archery, I've hunted one day in my life, archery elk, and that was just because I had shot my mule deer and I went and bought an archery tag and hunted that one day. So I don't really have any experience just solely focusing on elk. So if you're going out into an area, I'm just curious, like some of the things that you focus on to go out there and get after and get on them, find them, like any tips you got that when you're going into an area.
Right.
Maybe you have some familiarity. Like the area we're going, we know the area, we know the lay of the land. But like, what are some pointers, I guess?
Sure. Well, and a little disclosure, like I've killed a few some good elk, but take anything I say with a grain of salt because I'm an East Coaster. I mean, it's, I'm not the greatest elk hunter in the world, but
I'll caveat that sometimes I'm more interested in hearing what a Easterner whitetail hunter, what you did to find success than I am to hear somebody that lives out there and is around it all the time.
True.
Because I think that deer hunters us whitetail hunters that hunt in highly pressured areas, I think we're pretty lethal hunters. And I don't think we get enough credit for our ability to go into an area that we don't know, find sign, and get after animals. It's tough to kill shit around here.
I would agree with that. I have to put that disclosure out there because I have some friends that are Westerners that are phenomenal, that spend 6 months out of the year in big timber,
right,
where I spend 2-3 weeks out of the year in big timber. So I have to. I
don't care about what they have to say. I want to know what a guy like me has to say.
I would say your average guy out there, we're out. They're literal weekend warriors and they're just dicking around. But anyways, so like anything, if I were to, I would take everything with a grain of salt as far as whatever state you're hunting, it's going to be different, just like with whitetails. So one piece of advice is going to be different in Wyoming than it is in Montana, than it is in Colorado. No matter what state you're going to, when you're hunting public land, you're competing against those local guys that are out screwing around, and you're competing against guys like me. And you're competing with, you're competing with
outfitters that could
exactly.
be base camp setup, horses.
Yep. So the biggest thing I would say to any out-of-state hunter, especially elk, is to go into it with a positive attitude and just know that you have to be mentally tough and be prepared to be depressed, burned out, worn out, not happy, disgusted with human beings, disgusted with elk, disgusted with the weather, disgusted with your lack of being in good condition. Be prepared for being disgusted that you missed a shot, because once you can recuperate, once you can recover from all of that, that's when you're going to kill a good bull. Mm-hmm. But that shit's all going to happen. So number one step to success on an elk hunt would be mentally tough and be prepared to make the best out of every situation. Enjoy that. You're flying out, so that's an advantage. But that drive out there is a monster. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a gruesome, long, especially we try and do it. We try and never shut the truck off. We go nonstop. So that can be depressing. But then you also have to, I really enjoy the drive. I love hitting the road. I love laughing. Every now and then somebody will drive by you and, they'll have their truck.
They're going west.
They're going and you're pumping fists at each other. And I love that stuff. And I don't put any stickers on my truck. I try and fly pretty under the radar. But when they see a truck cap on with, aerial fletches sticking out of the window and a camper that has 33-inch tires on,
right. They
know you're dragging that thing. It's literally beat up and they know you're going elk hunting. But, as far as getting into elk, I switched gears a little bit this year and then switched back on a couple different things. Like last year, I shot just a great bull and hit him right in the shoulder. Fucking stupid. And it's a lack of. I shot him like I'd shoot whitetails, which I've done this twice now on big bulls. The bull I did it 3 years previously was a really big bull, like a 350, 360 bull, which just even sounds stupid to say. And then this bull wasn't a giant, but it was over 300. That's a good public land bull.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck, it still makes me mad. Know their anatomy, and I know their anatomy, but it's not. I'm a whitetail. I mean, I know whitetails.
Yeah, like autopilot kicks in.
Yeah. And I shot this bull just right in the shoulder. So that made me sick. We did everything right. I mean, we gave him. I think I backed out for 8 hours and went back, and just they're tough. They're tough animals. So if you're gonna take a shot on a bull, make it textbook, make it perfect. And we had called this one in, which I don't do a ton of calling, but we had called this one on, and I shot him slightly quartered to, I mean, ever so slightly. And I've never seen an arrow. It went in like 3 inches. So one of the things that I did after that, I came home and I'm like, man, I'm going to change my rig, I'm shooting heavier arrows and yada, 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 and all this nonsense. And it really isn't the thing to do, for me at least. I actually just switched back, as you saw when you came in, on fletching arrows.
Yeah.
I have a system that works. I've had 4 full passes on big mature bulls. Why would I change that? Just because I shot one in the shoulder? I mean, you could have shot that thing in the shoulder with a 1,000-grain arrow. So you're not getting through that shoulder.
Yeah.
You just got to hit them in the right spot. And so mentally, that goes back to my mental game. That bothered me after that, and it was like, shit. And I got in on like 4 other bulls, but it made me sick losing that good bull. And I don't like shooting 2 of them, and I was really hoping to run into that bull, but I don't know. I don't think I didn't damage him.
Yeah.
He just got an arrow in his shoulder.
Yeah, he said, I'm done with this. I'm going to go.
Yeah,
elsewhere.
it might have gone in more than, it was hard to tell how far it went in, but.
Did you ever get your arrow back or no?
No. Let's see, did I get my arrow back? I don't think, no, I didn't. Because I could see it sticking out of him, but shit, that's one of those ones you lay in bed.
Well, and with an elk, I mean, I don't have the experience, but I've heard people talk about it. It's very hard if you don't get an exit hole. Like if that arrow stays in and they get going, like it's very difficult unless you get along and there's some blood coming out of the mouth or something. It's very difficult to get on a blood trail. Where most of the time there's no snow and the tracks might be a little bit hard to follow because a lot of times they're going to be on a game trail.
Well, and a lot of that ground is so dry up in the mountains. I mean, a drop of blood hits the ground. But the biggest thing, like any animal, as soon as you shoot them, I mean, knock another arrow, try and get another one in them.
Yeah.
But just in call, it's like I called to this bull right away, and he stopped at, I don't know, I could just see him. He was probably 150 yards. He'd probably gone up 400 feet, and he's probably 150 yards away. It wasn't 400 feet. He probably went up 150 feet, but he stood there for 15 minutes, which is not a good sign. They should be tumbling by then. But you really got to know their anatomy. So when you go with a bow and arrow, Google image search a bull anatomy.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, their shoulders are huge. And the first bull I ever shot, I was almost sick because I hit him high and back, which in my mind was high and back. It was textbook smoke show. I hit him higher than I wanted to, and I hit him 6 inches back.
And it was long?
Oh, I double lunged him. He went nowhere, and I didn't realize it. I heard him crash, and I was like, man, it sounded like. But
you knew what you saw, and you couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I was 22 years old, and I was all alone. I was in public land. I don't know what the fuck I was. I literally had I had 3 pins on my sight. I was a whitetail hunter, but I knew it was a good shot. Not really. I didn't know how good it was for elk. Now, with that being said, I still tend to shoot them like right for the heart, and you don't want to shoot elk. That shoulder just protects too much. Where a whitetail, you can slip through that shoulder. I mean, I know people have said, oh, you can't shoot through a whitetail shoulder, and I have stuck a couple whitetails hard in the shoulder, but man, I got a bunch of shoulder blades. There's a couple of them over here with broadheads holes through them. I mean, you can shoot right through them.
Yeah, you can shoot.
You can't do that with an elk. So know their anatomy. But as far as getting on elk, if you're going to Colorado. Mm-hmm. I have only hunted Colorado for elk one time. I've run into quite a few elk while I was mule deer hunting. But that's two different scenarios. So I guess it depends on what unit you're going to. But the most elk I've ever seen was when I was mule deer hunting, and they were all at timberline. So you're looking at 12,000 feet, and it's a monster. I mean, that's a tough.
So that's where we're going to be. We're going to be camping around 11.
Oh, good.
And the area where we're going, this will be our 4th year in a row having somebody in this area. And the deer and elk it's exactly what you're saying, timberline. Mm-hmm. And they're high at night, and then they come down into the timber as soon as the sun starts coming up. It's consistent.
Yep.
So hopefully, if nobody's been in there disturbing them, they're going to be in doing that same pattern.
Yep.
And it seems like there's an elevation. We're tracking all the points, like 11-2 in this area.
Yep.
There is sign out the ass, like unbelievable. So I'm very excited to get in there and then have realistically 5 to 6 days it's going to be 6 days, but hopefully we can hunt at least, you know how it goes these trips. So you have 6 days in there, but you're not going to be hunting hardcore for 6 days because somebody could shoot something or this could happen. Things are going to happen. So hopefully we have a few days to hunker in on that sign and figure it out. But it's, that's what's been there in the past. What's going to be there this year, I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be the same, could be different.
Well, you have a huge advantage, and you have history there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, I'm pretty guilty of going to different states, more for well, no, I've done it with elk too, and just getting into a spot, spending a day or two there, going to a next spot. Fine. Don't do that. If you don't have a lot of time, don't do that shit. Go to a spot and just work your ass. If you find sign, just work. Just keep working and learn the spot. And once you learn a spot, like you guys are going to know, you have history there, you're going to know right where to go to get started with them. Those elk aren't going to leave unless, wildfires change shit. But for the most part, I mean, pressure's going to change stuff. But even the place that I'm going this year, I've been there 4 or 5 years. There's always so many people there. But man, I get into bulls. It's like these bulls just like this.
Mm-hmm.
These elk like this spot, and they're going to go there no matter what. So you just got to learn those spots and then just beat the shit out of it and just stay the course.
Now you made a comment. You don't tend to call a ton. Do you more of kind of sneak around looking for sign, try to get in within the herd? Or
yeah, that's where I was going with that private land thing, man. When we went to that private land, holy shit, you'd call and just rah, rah. There were bulls just ripping at you. But that was So being that I don't spend a ton of time in the timber. I have a pretty good grasp on elk sounds and what everything is, but not the way I do whitetails. Like I can really, it sounds arrogant, but I can call a whitetail in from across a freaking 600-foot parking lot pretty much. I mean, they're going to come. But elk, I'm not as confident with, and plus I'm hunting, high-pressured public land. So every idiot, I shouldn't call them idiots, every idiot like myself is out there just cow calling and working and, bugling, and they're pretty sharp on that. I mean, the elk know. So I pretty much keep my calling really reserved, and I almost spot and stalk them. Or I've learned them where they travel, and I've learned when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive, or I've learned to some degree. The biggest thing is to be quiet and let them make the mistake. And it's kind of like defensive wrestling. Like, be in there, work hard, but let your opponent make the mistake and then capitalize. And that's kind of how I have found to hunt elk. Now, I will say there's going to be 2 or 3 days that they are just they're just a frenzy. And that's when guys like me actually feel like we're great callers, because I'm literally – and so then it's like, wow, I could just call that bull in, Last year I took a buddy with me that had never – 2 buddies actually. One didn't have a tag. He missed the application. But my other buddy, it was his first time out, and we just – it seemed like we were fighting bulls off for 2 or 3 days. I mean, they were just – I think the one day we called in 4 or 5 bulls in a row. Like, I don't know. He missed one. It's his first time, and he just it was insane. But this spot we go to, I mean, you can have bulls within 20 yards screaming at you and never see them.
Right.
And
that's what I'm excited for, to really get after this, is to get into some of these dark timber areas where I know we had hunted around a little bit, but it was just the one day. Like, I'm excited to get into these areas because I think we could do a lot by just stalking around and using the thermals and trying to work up into where they are.
Well, and that's one thing, you really got to watch those thermals and understand, keep checking that wind all the time, even when you're not hunting. I mean, you're always hunting, but just to study what's happening. And I like the little, I have the little pull, I don't know, it's like cattail or whatever it is. Yeah, the little milkweeds, because you can see how it's traveling, and that'll really make you or break you. And learning the thermals and how to attack. I mean, there's some bowls where there's always going to be elk, and that's because they can smell everything in there.
Right.
And you really can't hunt them in those bowls. You're just going to ruin your spot. You're better off playing them on their exit and their entrance, in my opinion. I mean, again, I'm an eastern elk hunter. I've killed.
But I think, like that's where my mind is going instantly. Is like where knowing this area, like where can I go to set up to hunt them, either coming back to bed or leaving the bed, because they are like those elk have consistently been there year after year, and they're in there because I think there's a benefit of what you just said with it being a bowl.
That's right.
That is, the air is very beneficial. It's dark timber. It's very difficult for you to get through there without making noise.
Right. Well,
So-
if you can figure out how to get into their bed, and when as the thermal, you know how the thermals are going to change in the morning. Once those thermals start to change and rise, you can get screwed. Like one of my favorite spots in Montana, it's phenomenal, but I got to get out of there by like 8:30 in the morning because and I almost run out. Once I can, you'll just feel the thermals will stop, and then it's like, fuck, you got like 7 minutes to get out of here.
Yeah.
And otherwise you just ruin it.
Right.
So I just dive and I drop down, back into the bottoms, and then I walk all the way out and around. And then the elk where I hunt, I'm hunting them in Montana, so the elevation is completely different. But you're on point with, there is an elevation that the elk, almost all of the elk in that area will tend to be. In your area, it is 12,000 feet because that's the hardest place to get to. In the area that I go, it's like 6,600 feet because that's the hardest place to get to, because you can drive. These guys can drive. I hate all these logging trails. They can drive to the top and then have a 3 or 4 mile hike, which isn't a big deal. And they can drive. They can start out at 8,000 feet and then hike in and then drop down. But for them to get to 6,600 is a pain in the ass. And if you come in through the bottom, you got to climb 2,000 feet. So 6,600.
It's like in that middle range.
It's in the middle, and it's where you have to put in the most work to get to them. So I hate to say it, but that's where the elk are going to be for the most part. It is in the most difficult place to get to. But, every now and then you'll hear, like we met some guys at camp last year that we were shooting the shit with, and they're like, dude, you wouldn't, and they were straight shooters. They're like, you wouldn't believe the bull we saw last night. They're like, we decided to go to town and take showers. And they're like, we got out and left, and they're like, we had a bull cross the road in front of us a half an hour after dark. And these guys hunt from August to January. They don't have a wife. They don't have kids. They're both in their 40s. I mean, these guys
They just hunt.
They're just mania. This is all they care about.
Yeah.
They can't. They're rough. Yeah. I mean, I really like them, but their life revolves around hunting and fishing.
Right.
So they're not bullshit artists. And they were like, this bull was huge, and they're like, they told me they showed me right where he came out, and it's just a dumb place. And there's trucks parked everywhere.
Dude, think about what we're talking about. That's whitetails.
It's one of those flukes.
But whitetails do the same thing. They go these big mature bucks, or even the groups of deer. Anywhere around here, this farmland, it's like.
Yep, you could get lucky.
Once the corn comes down, where are the deer? They're up near houses and hedgerows. They're near town. And then what do they do when the sun goes down? They start filing out of town, out to the fields to eat the.
And you never know with these freaking elk. And I don't know. I would love to know how many miles they travel, because, dude, we spooked a cow. Well, actually, it wasn't last year. It was 2 or 3 years ago in this bottom, and we had descended from this. It was probably like a 3,000 foot descent. It was hell. That cow went up it. I mean, it took us an hour to drop it. The fucking cow went up this thing, and we watched her, and then you could hear the sticks, and it's like, she just went up that in like 13 seconds. Like, it took us an hour to come down that.
Yeah.
So you can exercise. That's another thing I was going to say. Like, try and get. I mean, it's too late. I hate to say it,
yeah.
but I mean, start punishing yourself right now, because it takes like 3 or 4 days of getting beat up before you're like, yeah, I'm starting to feel good. So if you can start to feel good right now, it helps. But it doesn't matter, because nothing you can do will ever.
So I think I've been on 2 of these trips, and I've been through the pain and the uncomfortableness of it. So I'm already comfortable with what's going to suck about it. So I'm not in the same physical shape I've been in the last 2 trips, because I just don't have the time that I used to devote to that. But I already know what it's going to feel like. I know what the suck is.
Yeah.
So like that's half the battle, is just knowing mentally what you're in for.
Yeah.
Because it's never what you anticipate it to be. You know, I'm sitting here with all like, oh yeah, we're gonna go right to this elevation line. There'll be something different this year.
Yep.
There'll be another camp set up there, or there'll be something going on. Who knows?
Yeah.
And it's just being able to adjust to that.
Being mentally, that's really in life, along with hunting. If you can just be mentally tough and just cope and just learn to be like, fuck it. It is
My
what it
wife
is.
told me the other day, she complimented me and said, "You're getting better at just going with the flow."
Yeah. Good for her.
I'm growing
Good for
up.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're growing up on
I
us.
said, "Hon, you don't know how much that means because
Yeah.
I'm trying."
Yeah.
I used to struggle with that, but
Oh, I do too.
I get stuck on my head. I'm going to do this, and this is how it's going to go, and it doesn't always go that way.
Yeah, and you know, every now and then I'm around. And I've worked for a couple people when I was a kid that were self-made multimillionaires, and there's a reason. And I always admired how shit would happen, and they'd be like, "Nah, fuck it, let's go," you know, and they would just switch directions. And it's like that has worn off on me, whether or not I realize it. But that is one of the most important, and not always. Sometimes I am literally like, "Fuck," you know, God. But then I'll see somebody else say, "Oh, you know, oh, this stuff always happens to me," and it's like, "Nah, dude, this shit happens to all of us. This is life. Just some of us don't whine about it. Right. Turn the page and let's rock and roll." And I'm guilty of that. I missed a bull. I don't know. It was a year. One of my other buddies, I helped him get his first bull, and it's a freaking beautiful bull. I shot a tree limb that was this big around, and the bull, it just caught me off guard. This cow and this bull just showed up out of nowhere. They were done bugling, and they just worked themselves right in. Anyways, I wasn't expecting it. I literally knocked an arrow, dropped down, drew on this bull, and there's just a fucking tree limb right in that. And I thought, what are the, like, you know, and you literally have 3 seconds to make a decision, and I centered the limb. I mean, for Christ's sakes. I could have gone a foot above it or a foot below it. I fucking centered it. This is no shit. I told my buddy Jake, who is another kid I took last year, and helped him get his first bull. I told him we crested this spot, and we were chasing bulls, and I go, dude, I missed a big bull 2 years ago right here. I'm whispering to him, and I go, I'm telling you, it was right fucking here. And we walk up over this little knob, and I think bulls were into bull. I think bulls were screaming 300-400 yards off. And I said, this is a great little shelf. And I go, I swear to God, I missed a bull. It was like right here. And I go, in fact, God, I think that's the limb. I shit you not. We walk over, and here's my broadhead still in the.
No
I mean, obviously still in the limb, but I walked in the middle of a 6 miles, or it might even be 8. I'm not sure how far it is in. Walked to that exact same spot, and I shit you not, 4 or 5 days later, we set up in that same spot, and he shot his first bull, and he shot right underneath that same limb. Is that crazy? I'm going to cut that limb down when I go there this year.
And bring it home and put it up here next to the...
I'm just going to cut it down and throw it on the ground. It owes me a big bull.
Yeah. Well, but isn't it funny how you remember those exact spots, exactly where things happen?
I walked to it in the dark. It was, I mean, we leave camp at like 3:30 in the morning. It's about I really don't know how many miles it's probably like a 5 or 6 mile walk, but as the crow flies, it's probably only like 3.5. The odds of me walking, I have Onyx, but I don't look at it. You know, I just know where I want to go up. Went up and then started moving on these bulls, and the odds of ending up under that tree limb at sunup was astronomical. But we actually did it. There's something in your brain that puts you in those spots, because I ended up walking up that same thing without using my app numerous days in a row. But so he ended up killing his bull shot right underneath that limb.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I would have laughed if he would have stuck that limb.
I know, the karma.
Yeah,
learn your lesson twice.
Yeah.
I think those are all some pretty good tips on stuff to be thinking about.
I feel like I dodged your question on good tips, but but
there's no silver bullet or whatever.
There is no slam dunk on like, hey, this is how you kill a big whitetail, or this is. I mean, mental toughness. I'm telling you, I think it's the biggest part. Is the biggest part, and being. This sounds gay, but like really enjoying the whole atmosphere. I mean, truthfully, if you can go on an out of state elk hunt and get into bugling bulls, you should really be proud of yourself, because that's tough to do. And if you can get in on an elk, and if you have a cow tag, I'd shoot a cow. I mean,
that's the boat I'm in. I have neither sex. If I have an opportunity at a legal bull or a cow, I just want a decent, decent distance shot, 40, 50 yards. That's my range.
Yeah. Another thing I would do and this is what I try and do. It doesn't always work because it seems like I'm done taking people hunting for one, but
No, you're not.
I'm not, but I got my own kids to start
Well, yeah,
trying
you're
to
at
get
that
started, and you and I'm happy to, and I love doing it, but you sacrifice a lot of your own opportunities to call for somebody else or put somebody else first, and it's kind of like, it's great, and I do enjoy that, but being a solo hunter, you're going to have way better odds. And if there's 4 of you and you're going to a state, if I were you, I wouldn't call much. I would get very good with mouth reads. I do think, and I'm a horrible
diaphragm calls.
Yeah, diaphragm calls. I'm a horrible turkey caller, like horrible. I hate mouth reads in general. I'm better at elk than I am turkeys because I care about it.
Mm-hmm.
But get good with it and be extremely disciplined with it. Don't overuse it. And listen to the bull. Try and figure out what are bulls screaming and what are people calling, and try and be a good bugler, but be a less dominant bugler. And I wouldn't bugle much. However, once you get in their lap, you can close the gap, in my opinion. And again, there's some serious elk callers out there listening and saying this guy's full of shit. But in my experience, I don't call much. I pretty much get in their lap. And then you can almost piss them off so much that they will close that. I mean, in their lap, I'm saying you're within 70, 80 yards. And, I mean, sometimes you can't even see them until 20 yards. So you got to get them in your lap. I mean, last year, that one day, I called in 4 or 5 bulls. I should say my buddy Hans and I called in 4 or 5 bulls for our buddy Jake. I mean, they were close. And it came down to they were just pissed off that we were there. And it was awesome. And he missed one. And, I mean, there was a couple that I don't even know. I don't know how he didn't get a shot, but it's elk hunting.
You see these videos and like it looks like how the hell does that guy not have a shot opportunity? But what you're seeing 5 feet away could be completely different. But that's the one thing I've been hearing a lot recently, listening to podcasts, getting ready for this hunt, is like guys talking about how everybody loves the idea of a charging in bull coming in pissed off at a bugle, but those can be some of the toughest situations because that bull is alert. He's coming head on.
That's right.
So like that's where I'm really in my mind, like approaching this, hoping that we can get into them and then just try to make it happen by getting inside of their bubble and being there.
I think almost all of my hunting strategy comes down to being right in their pocket without any of them knowing I'm there. I mean, that actually comes down to whitetails. Well, it isn't. It isn't. It is hard, but like with whitetails, I study them, and then I know their terrain really well. And then once the wind is right and everything's right, I slip right in their pocket. I don't try and. I mean, I can call whitetails, but I try not to even let them know I'm there. I don't hang stands. I don't put cameras in there. I'll hang a set and literally hunt it that night. I mean, last year I hung a set and killed that buck on one sit, and that's how I like to do that. It's what's worked for me, at least. And it's the same with the elk. Once you start dicking around and they realize, like, somebody's in our neck of the woods, like, that's not good.
Mm-mm.
So the less they know, the better. Let them make a mistake and walk by you and drill them.
Yeah.
And there's a hard dynamic to figure out how to be. You want to be reserved and stay out of their honey hole, so you're not pushing them. But there is a time to go cut their throat. Yeah, and I haven't really. With that being said, I haven't figured out that dynamic, obviously, perfectly. There's sometimes even I'm standing there and I'm literally like, man, I wish I've got a few. My one buddy's killed one buddy's killed over 50 bulls. I got another buddy that's killed 30 some bulls. And I'd love to have them there and be like, hey, what would you do? Right?
Yeah,
like
right
should
now,
I charge? And I think, it's just experience.
Yeah.
And you just got to figure that stuff out. But the less those elk know that you're there, I wouldn't overcall. You can always call more, but you can't take those calls back. Once you educate them,
nope,
you're done. So I'm excited. If I were you, I'd split up too. I wouldn't hunt.
I'm going to go. I'm like wiggling over here. I got to take a leak.
Yeah,
Your coffee's strong. Ran right through.
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're back. Sorry.
You don't need to apologize. I was over here wiggling.
Yeah. No sweat. I know.
If I drink coffee this late in the afternoon, I've been drinking water all day.
Yeah.
I'm better now though. I'm seeing clearly.
It's funny.
My eyes were floating.
It's funny how that can ruin. You can't even think.
No, I'm like over here just freaking readjusting. But so the last point you were just wrapping on was, maybe splitting up and not. So are you thinking? So there's 4 of us. Two guys are hunting deer. 2 guys are hunting.
Okay.
2 guys are hunting. Me and the other guy are hunting elk.
2 of you have mule deer tags.
Yeah.
With a bow.
No, muzzleloader.
Muzzleloader.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're gonna. They're
gonna
just,
be up high.
Yeah, they're just solely focused on deer. Yeah. So it's just the 2 of us are chasing elk. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, I got 2 buddies that are meeting me out there, but I'm not sure they're going to be exactly right with us. They're going to probably be in a different bowl or basin.
So how many? What is it? 4 of you or 6 of you?
Well, there's 4 of us going from here, but I have 2 buddies that live in Denver that
Nice.
are meeting
Yeah.
up with us. They're going to come up for a couple days for the weekend, and they're going to hunt somewhere near us. But
so this sounds. I don't know how this sounds, but right now hunting alone, I am 1,000. I'm 1,000%. That sucks, right? Because hunting with people with me, I don't know what I am, but it's not it's probably batting 300, which is great. It actually is still really good. But alone has a lot of benefits to it. You're quieter, you're less scent, you don't have anybody to contemplate decisions with. You just fucking go. You just there is no like, hey, what? Yeah, that's right. And you don't think about anything. You just when it feels like you should run, you run. When it feels like you should stop, you just stop. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. It is hard to beat the excitement of being with a friend and calling in bulls and I've even, like I said earlier, like, oh, it's cost me elk, but man, I have some amazing like stories you can't even describe to people. But it's like if I didn't have somebody with me, it's like you wouldn't believe what just happened. Like, but when it comes down to actually getting shit killed, I do think that you're best alone. So if I were to give you a piece of advice, it would be to pack really light, drink as much water as you can physically drink before you leave camp, and then carry a fair amount. You have a good filter system? Mm-hmm. You got that? I can't remember.
I have a SteriPen, which is a UV light. So
you got to see this one I have. We bought these cups last year.
Is it a pump or?
Nope. It's a I should have it out.
Or is it a squeeze?
No, it's literally like a it's probably like a 1 pint cup.
Okay.
You dip it in the water, and then you push it back into itself, and it filters the water. Mm-hmm. And then you just drink out of it like a cup, but you can put the cap on it and then just hike. And it's nice because, truthfully, I mean, I don't drink much water during the day anyways, like when I'm in my shop. So if you just pound water before you leave camp, and you could have one good drink in the middle of the day and then get your ass back to camp and pound water again. I mean, I know it's not the healthiest way. You're going to get dehydrated, but that's a really good That's a good way to travel. Pack light. Don't carry any more shit than you have to. You can be cold. Like, that's the way I always look at it. I'll literally take a jacket, like a lightweight jacket.
When
and
you're
just,
out for the day,
I just go for the day. And the biggest thing is to get in there and just work the whole. You can fucking dick around when you get back to New York. But when you're there, like, have the mindset, I am going to fucking punish myself. Mm-hmm. And being alone, I really do. I think your odds are highest. Plus, you're all spread out. If you go with your buddy, you're focusing on one of the 2 of you getting a shot.
Right.
And when you go by yourself, it's one of you getting the shot. And where you're going, you're not going to call elk anyways. No offense. I mean, you're going to have maybe 2 or 3 days where you could actually trick one of those.
And is that going to happen when we're there? It may not.
Right. So you're not going to call elk anyways, so there's no sense in you trying to call for your buddy.
No.
You, on public land in high-pressured areas, which is where we're all going, you're better off not being known you're there and setting up for the shot. And that's what I would do solo. And then if your buddy goes to another drainage, I mean, you're upping your odds. The hard part is you could all kill in one day, which, I mean, that's happened too. Then you're packing elk, that's a great problem to have.
It's a great problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I think that's one thing that I'm going to have to try hard to want to do because I love hunting with someone. When we're on, I mean, that's all these trips I've done. I haven't gone alone. I've done it, I guess I have for a couple, like morning and afternoon I've gone alone. But like to just say, okay, we're going to split up and go 2 different ways, and let's see what we're going to see, especially for the first few days to try to just cover some ground.
You might be surprised what you might love it. I love it. This sounds horrible.
Here I do it, but not. I haven't done it out there.
Yeah. Have you got a I don't know. I'm probably not the greatest safety guy either. I don't know.
I have. We all have inReaches.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I don't even.
So I have an inReach. We do have the Garmin Rhinos. I think we're all bringing them, but we're not going to carry them in with us this year. Those are the
what is
GPS 2A radios.
Oh, no shit.
So we can see each other if we're within the range for the radios to communicate with each other. You can see each other on a topo map.
Oh, cool. How much are those?
They range, of course, but like if the one I have is probably like 3 or 4 model years old, and you can get them for like $450. Then probably even less than that, like $399-ish for the one I have. But if you get up to like the new ones, like the 750s and the 755T that come with all the topo maps loaded, like you're looking at like $650.
Yeah.
But those things are like when we go on our hunts to Pennsylvania, we'll have 10, 12 guys plus that have these radios, and we can see where everyone is on the map.
Right,
It's a safety thing, it's a communication thing.
Yeah.
But with this hunt, like a portion of the area, depending on elevation, we're going to have cell signal, and we're going to have our inReaches, so we can communicate via text and stuff, to say, hey, got a bull down or whatever.
You might have cell signal out in that. See, where I'm hunting, it's so thick, there is no cell signal.
Well, once we get down, once we're in timber, I know there's no cell signal, but you get above timberline and you get up towards some of these passes, like you've got 4G, like you're sitting probably in some better than in some of the areas I drive through around Western New York here.
Right. So. One thing I've learned, another 2 cents, I am amazed how, like my one buddy Jerry and I all hunt the same. He hunts with me a lot, and we've dropped into draws. You go down a ridge, and he'll drop into one drainage, and I'll drop into the other side. And for instance, a couple times in particular, like I would be into screaming bulls for 3 hours, and it was insane. And I'm on this side of the ridge, and he's on this side of the ridge, and I'll meet him back at camp at dark, and I'll be like, "Holy shit, today was insane!" And he'll be like, "I didn't hear a fucking thing." I mean, we're just one drainage apart, and you would think they're so loud that you would be able to hear them, but you can't. So if you're in a drainage that's dead, don't think that whole area, you might be able to just do a half an hour walk, pop up over and get into this other drainage and have screamers. And I am amazed how we've only been a quarter mile apart, and one of us has heard screaming bulls for 2 or 3 hours, and the other one didn't hear shit. And it happened to me one time. He was like, he's like, you couldn't hear that? And I'm like, no, where were you? And we actually almost argued over it because I'm like, there's no way you were right here. I'm like, I'm literally 380 yards away from you. Yeah. I'm like, he's like, dude, I'm telling you. And I look at his track, and it's like, holy shit, we were on top of each other, but I never heard him.
Yeah.
And likewise, he never did. So if you're in an elk, I feel like there is a distance that it covers, and it's not as much as you think. It's kind of like turkeys.
Yeah. If they're turned one way and the wind's blowing the other, I mean.
Right.
There could be a turkey gobbling 50 yards away if he's turned the other way and the wind's blowing.
Yeah, you're not
never
hearing
him.
And it's so true. Yeah, and I don't see. That's one. I wish I had more time in the mountains because you might. I would like to go with a friend and just say, "Hey, bugle, I want to hear you. I want to see if I can hear you." And that's stuff I got to work on more and remember to do. But I think you should try and go alone.
Split up.
I would split up for at least the first 2. I would go alone for the first 2 days, and the hard part, and I've had this happen. So I got 4 buddies we met in Montana one time, and everybody's a murderer, and we all split up. Everybody wanted to split. Nobody wanted to be with anyone, and we'd get back to camp, and everybody was like, "What you?" No, I didn't hear anything. Nope, I didn't hear anything either.
Nobody wanted to tell each other.
I was into screaming bulls every day, and I would get back and be like, yeah. And then finally on like the 4th day, I was like, all right, I can't even bullshit you anymore. I'm like, there's a fucking bull. You guys got to drop into this bull with me. I am covered in bulls. And then every one of those sons of bitches is like, I got a spot. I'm into bulls too.
Yeah.
And we all kind of came clean. Like we're all just screaming out.
Funny.
But I do think that you're better off alone in a state where you're not going to do a lot of calling, especially if you're a shitty caller like me.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not a caller, I think that's probably one of the best things you could give advice to.
Yeah. Be quiet. And I read something about Chuck Adams wrote literally 20 years ago, and it always stuck in my mind. And he said, if you watch coyotes and predators, they always tend to stay in the shadows. And he says they just dog their prey and they just look for a mistake. And he's like, that's how I hunt. And that was when he had shot a couple world record bulls in the Missouri Breaks, and that was when I kind of first started hunting. And one of the first places I went with was the Missouri Breaks, and that was a place that you literally want to stay in the timber like that and just work those little fingers. But that's I always think that. I always think like stay in the shadows, stay out of the sun.
Don't walk right across the middle of the meadow.
Don't walk. Oh, never. I mean, anybody should know that. But I mean, even when you're tiptoeing through the dark, you want to stay in the dark timber. Like there'll be little rays of sunshine coming down, and you know the only time you want to be in them is when you know there's no elk around you and you're ready for a nap, lay in the sun. You know, but other than that, try and stay in the shadows and just dog them. So I'm excited for you.
That's good stuff, Jesse.
Yeah.
That's a great piece to end on. I think is just be a coyote, be a wolf, be a predator.
Yeah, that's it. Be a predator.
They're just slinking around.
Yep, and they never quit. They're always working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm excited to hear your stories. Shoot me a text and give me a call, and let me know how you're making out, and we'll do it. We'll do it as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
I always love this time of year. My phone starts ding, 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 and isn't
it funny how you start reconnecting with everybody, and everybody's fired up about everything.
Right now, I'm getting pictures of antelope from all over the place.
Nice.
You know, because antelope's getting slayed, and yeah, it's exciting. The bull pictures will start coming in here soon. So
yeah, I think tomorrow Colorado opens the second tomorrow.
Yep.
So I got a couple buddies that are already out there and up in the mountains as we speak that are ready for season to start tomorrow. So
good for them. Yeah, my Facebook feed is full of spike camp pictures. You know, all these guys got their little bivvy setups, and you know, a lot of them take them in, leave them, and then go back. You know, and they just and then they got all their gear in there. But I'm excited. I love this time of year. So good luck to you. And
good luck to you too. We'll
appreciate
stay in
you
touch.
having me on. This was fun.
Get your damn podcast going again.
Yeah,
you're hurting the marketplace here. You were driving my numbers through the roof.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure nothing we do matters. But thanks.
Hey, no one cares. That's what I always say to my buddies. But thank you again for having me over. It's good to see you, and we'll stay in touch and shoot the big one.
You too, man. Good luck to you and all your buddies and all your listeners. I hope everybody has a great season.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jesse.
All right, cool. Thanks, Bill.
See you. Keep feeding them. Nice job.